What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Thursday edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Johnny Lazarus, and we have Jim Dowd, the former New Jersey Devil and former longtime NHLer, joining the show today. That will be in about 15 minutes, but we do have a very sad start to today's show. We all woke up to that terrible news of Larry Brooks, the legendary New York Post reporter who passed away late last night. Larry was someone that I got to know decently well over the past few years, just covering the Rangers and going on the road with him. You know, the real breakthrough moment I had with Larry was in Carolina during the 2024 playoffs. You know, all the reporters got together in a hotel and had a few beers, and I got to talk to Larry about his grandson, Scott, who, he loved talking about the most. As much as Larry loved hockey, there was nothing he loved talking more about than his grandson and his hockey career, and how he was starting Bantams and how he was afraid that he's a smaller guy and he was going to be, dealing with hitting for the first time. And he'd ask me, my advice when I went through youth hockey. Obviously, he told so many legendary stories too in the chances I had to sit with him in the press box. And I just don't think there was a more powerful voice when it came to the New York Rangers. Yeah. And, I even any news I ever heard, I was going to Larry's Twitter to see if he reported it, because you wouldn't believe anything was true until Larry said it.
He certainly had the beat of that team and had the trust of upper management. And I'll say this, Johnny, like as an outsider, had a little echo going there for a second, but as an outsider, I obviously well familiar with Larry Brooks, and I remember David Quinn always, speaking so highly of Larry Brooks when I would talk to him. And obviously, Quinny was the head coach in New York during a tough stretch of time of a rebuild. So look, not somebody I personally agreed with all the time, but always had a level of respect for just the way he did his job and the passion that he brought. And he was a guy who didn't pull any punches, Johnny. And if anybody can respect that, it's me. So I actually wanted to read
Jimmy
VC had a tweet about him that I just saw on social media. And I'm just going to read this to everybody, so bear with me for a second. So Jimmy tweeted 1 hour ago, Larry Brooks was synonymous with the New York Rangers. From articles to the legendary YouTube videos I watched growing up, nobody covered hockey like him. It never seemed possible that he wouldn't be around forever. As my 6 years in New York went on, I was lucky to be on Brooksy's good side. He always was in my corner, and I look forward to our informal post-practice talks about the state of our team, the state of the league, college hockey, and family, especially watching his grandson play hockey. He was a legend and one of one. Rest in peace, my friend. So, look, we all saw he was stepping away recently, Johnny, and I don't think anybody expected this news. And look, I'm not often too transparent into my personal life like you are. It's not something that I generally dive into, but when I see a guy who was so full of life and still so on top of what he did, and he was only 75 years old, to see him losing his life to a battle with cancer, which is what I read, it hits home for me. My dad's 75 years old. My dad is in a horrible, horrible battle with cancer. As you know, obviously, Johnny, I don't think our audience knows a whole lot about that, because I don't think that's something I've honestly ever spoken about publicly. So it's definitely a jarring thing to read and see. So condolences to his family, his friends, all of the current media members, I'm sure, are a little
Molly
bit
especially.
Really
Molly. Feel for Molly.
The first person that I saw tweet about it, and I don't even follow her, is Laura Ingraham. She's a Fox News host. I don't even follow her. I know who she is, but I don't follow her, and it was right on my timeline. So, it's sad, and we're obviously gonna transition here, Johnny, and we're gonna have to spend the rest of the hour talking about sports and hockey. And I am really excited to have Jimmy Dowd on today. And listen, Jimmy, did he play for the? I know I have a list here.
He didn't play for the Rangers.
played for the Devils twice. Never was a Ranger, was a Flyer, but I'm sure he'll know who that is as well. He's from North Jersey, Central Jersey, brick area. So
Larry covered the Devils too, I think, in the early parts of his career. So I'm sure maybe they had some crossover there, but Larry definitely spent some time covering the Devils. So maybe there is a story there too. But that's something we can certainly talk to Jimmy about. I'm a little like shook up obviously a little bit, but it's just, again, like, just to put a not like a bow on it, but just to round it out, like, there was one specific day in Anaheim last year. Like, I was, one of the only reporters who traveled. It was just me and Larry there for the Rangers. So I got to be at morning skate, just me and Larry and Sam Rose and Peter Laviolette, like, in a conversation, like, and that was such a cool thing for me to be a part of. And Larry, like, that's when I felt like he kind of not took me under his wing, but just like, opened up about like his career, his stories. Like, we sat together that whole game. And that was just so cool to like hear everything that he had experienced in his career. Like, he still had like every ticket stub from like every game he ever worked, which was super cool. So yeah, it's a sad day for the hockey world. And I really just, again, feel for his family, and I really feel for Molly and Brian Boyle too. Their show up in the Blue Seats has been going for a couple seasons. I always tuned in every week to hear what Larry had to say and what his thoughts were. And just his seat will never be filled at MSG. That's for sure.
and
But Colby, yeah.
I'm sure they'll save him one.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a Larry Brooks seat up in that press box forever. No doubt whatsoever. So, anyways, Johnny, I know that's a hard thing for you to talk about, and it's probably.
And thank you, Colby, for sharing about your dad. I think that's something that people really appreciate as well. Obviously, it's hard to open up, but I think our listeners appreciate that.
Listen, I see all the sorries and the prayers in the chat, and I do appreciate that from everybody. I do. We don't ever have to bring it up again. We don't ever have to talk about it again. I'm just one of those people that, again, I generally don't share things like that. I'm sharing that with you guys, and let's just put it in our back pocket and move on from that little personal tidbit. But
yeah.
Anyways, Johnny, let's switch. Not easy to do, but we have a job to do, and that's what we're gonna do. And I'll just start with this before we get into the Tkachuks and the Pinto show, and the Tkachuk show and the Pinto contract. I got a real kick out of some of the responses to the Maple Leafs video yesterday. Like, obviously, I'm not suggesting going into the facility today and walking up to Austin Matthews and Willie Nylander and saying, "You're fired." I also got a kick out of all the people that compared Draisaitl and McDavid to Matthews and Nylander. And they talked a lot about the coaches that those other guys had. And it's just funny to see how literal some people take those videos and those comments. Like,
it's passionate sports fans, man. That's what it is.
Yeah, but I also think, like, if you go back to the show and you listen to it, and we said, like, again, it's not like you can trade Austin Matthews. You can't trade a guy that's that good. And I said that on the show yesterday, but something does need to change. And I do think there's a pretty big difference, Johnny, between the way that McDavid shows up in the big moments and Draisaitl shows up in the big moments and Austin Matthews. I don't think anybody can argue that.
What's his moment? What moment has he had? I think that's something that Rupper said in our Tri-State show the other day. No, Matthews. Like, what moment do you put Austin Matthews with?
I don't.
Exactly. There is no moment.
I don't, and that's why I'm saying it's not apples to apples. And is this better as saying you can still fire him though, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting yesterday to kind of hear and see the responses. And look, Leafs fans are passionate. They're the types of fans that, like, they get to say whatever they want, but the minute an outsider says something, they lose their shit. And Randy Workman in our chat says, Colby, if Gretz can be traded, anyone can be traded. Yeah, I mean, listen, there is a lot of truth to that. If Wayne Gretzky could get traded, anybody can get traded. That is a very, very fair statement. So, I thought that was interesting yesterday, Johnny. I know your boy right now, Shane Pinto, is the
Yeah.
top of the news cycle. What'd you make of his new, what is it, 4-year, $7.5 million contract?
4 years, $7.5 million. And Shane Pinto, I think, like, is a big part of the Ottawa Senators' future success if they want to have it. Like, Shane is a guy who the coaching staff has asked a lot of. He's got defensive responsibilities. Like, there's been games where he's been taken off the power play to essentially shadow McDavid. Like when the Oilers played Ottawa this year, Shane, who was the hottest goal scorer in the NHL, wasn't playing power play. Like, he was simply out there to be a shutdown, third line center role. That's what he was against the Leafs last year in the playoffs. Like, he's got a lot of responsibility now, and Ottawa has a lot of trust in him. And I think giving him that, 4-year, $7.5 million contract shows that. Like, is it, a 7-year deal? No, but $7.5 million.
But Johnny,
What?
Let me comment on that.
Yeah.
Because he's had this sort of smaller body of work as far as a lot of offensive success, right? And I think defensive players don't necessarily get as big a contracts. And this year he's scoring a lot of goals.
He slowed down, though. He slowed down.
No, I know, but he's still on pace for a career year with goals, no?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, he had 21 last year. He's got 8 this year.
Right. So you'd have to hope he could maybe get to 30 this year. To me, this feels a little bit of like, all right, this is a real good contract, but I'm still betting on myself a little bit. Like, I wonder if the Ottawa Senators said, you know what, we'll give you 6 years, but the number's going to be 6.2 or something like that. You know what I mean? Which, I mean, if 6 times 4, 24, 7.5 times 4, Johnny, go quick. 7 times 4. 7 times 4.
28.
There you go. Plus half and half. So 30 million. So it's more money, but still, like, it feels like he probably said, I'll take shorter and I'll bet on myself for where the cap's going to be, because I don't think Shane Pinto has reached his ceiling yet. Like, I still
he's only 25.
That's what I mean. He's 25 years old. He missed a half of a season of playing games. I think this is a guy who wants to keep his options open to potentially try to get back to maybe the States, maybe the East Coast. Look, everybody memorized their multiplication tables, right?
Yeah, I have
feel like
that one.
That stays with you forever. I mean, I got 1 through 9 on the multiplication tables. Like, I will die remembering what those numbers are. I'm glad they taught us that shit in school, but
I agree.
And I'm glad you were able to come up with 28. I was worried I might have to bail you out a little bit there, but I don't know. Like, I just thought the term, he gets through his RFA years, and now likely he'll come out of that. Not likely, he'll be a UFA when he comes out of this deal, and maybe he's thinking at that point he'll be 29 years old. Maybe he can get a 6-year deal for $9.5 million a year. By that time, a good second line player is probably a $10-11 million player in 4 or 5 seasons in reality, right? I mean, so that's kind of how it felt to me.
Yeah, I know he also does love that group of guys, though. And Shane, again, like, he'll be happy pretty much anywhere, right? Like, he's just like a happy-go-lucky, upbeat kid. But
when Brady
again, like, they're starting
playing for the Philadelphia Flyers, I think Shane's going to want to play for the Philadelphia Flyers too.
Maybe.
He would actually,
but yeah.
If Rick Tocchet is still the coach when this guy's like, Shane Pinto would, like, the marriage, like that, his game would fit Philadelphia so well. Like, I know I'm just full on speculation after making a joke about Brady Tkachuk. But he would be a Flyer type of player, Shane Pinto. Like, when I think about what they love, like, that kid would fit in this market.
I mean, any of those Bruins, even the Islanders by then, who knows where the Islanders will be in 4 years? He could be a great guy there. But Colby, let's actually, since you mentioned Brady Tkachuk, let's talk about the Tkachuk brothers and yesterday's announcement and the reaction. But first, let me give a quick word from our sponsor, Parasso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Parasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at parasso-usa.com with our promo code Hockey15, in all caps Hockey15. And Colby, I think this is actually something that you and I were talking about last year around Four Nations. I think we had the conversation with Jason Demers too about, like, how the Tkachuk brothers are really starting to put themselves out there and quote unquote grow the game, or at least the popularity of it, away from the ice. And granted, both guys aren't playing right now. They're both out with injuries and have, plenty of time on their hands. And I wonder what this show will look like when they're both back in the action and have to record an episode once a week. But I do like that hockey players are stepping outside of their comfort zone, even though this is probably a comfort zone for the Tkachuks, but not for typical hockey players, and putting themselves out there. My only fear, I only have one fear, is that because, podcasts, there's always something controversial with podcasts. It's almost like inevitable, right? They're going to have a clip. They're going to have something that people respond to in a negative way. And the Tkachuks themselves are, you either love them or you hate them. But I hope if there is something, that does go wrong, God forbid, with this show, it doesn't turn off hockey players from wanting to do things like this.
What do you think
and put
would
themselves
go wrong,
out there?
though?
No, again, it's not your typical thing for hockey players to talk about their own teams or things going on in the league. The guys that are currently playing, right? Usually those guys don't talk about what is actually on their mind. And when they do, they usually face some backlash. So I hope if they face backlash, it doesn't turn off the rest of the players in the league from doing these kinds of things or making these kinds of appearances.
They're going to get chirped.
That's my only fear.
Yeah. But they don't seem to be guys that give a shit. Just like their old man, Keith, Big Walt, as we know him, didn't give a shit and still doesn't give a shit what anybody thinks about him, which is one of the beauties of those guys. And look, is it going to take them some time to get comfortable? Yeah, it's going to take them some time to get comfortable. But I do think that they're going to see the Kelsey brothers do things. And I do think that's going to give them some comfort in speaking out. And look, we're seeing more and more. Like, we really are. We have to. I feel like in life in general, Johnny, we like to go back and dwell and be like, well, there's no personalities. No hockey players are willing to do anything. And I'm guilty of that too. But if we're really honest about it, okay, and we're gonna bring Jim Dowd on here in about a minute. Who I'm really excited to have on. I mean, this is an absolute legend for the game of hockey. And I think we probably have a lot of people in our chat that are going to really appreciate hearing from Jim Dowd, because a lot of you guys are hockey historians and you're hockey fans for a very long time. But what I was going to say, Johnny, players have their own YouTube pages now. You're seeing, again, I'm not a fan of the new dress code, but you're seeing guys exercise their freedoms with their dress code, and they're wearing different shit. And Austin Matthews wears a pocketbook, and guys are doing things that traditionally you'd get really, really made fun of for doing. I mean, that's just reality. You're walking in the locker room and the boys are shitting all over you. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Shane Knighty giving me an absolute tongue lash about having a Twitter account in 2010. So I deleted it, and Knighty's the best guy. I love Knides. Jim Dowd might have even crossed paths with him as a player. Who knows? But at the time, that was reality. Now, Knighty has his own Twitter. He gets it. And so, look, it's going to take some time to get these guys comfortable and saying things that aren't just, PR messaging.
Surface level. Yeah.
They'll cross the line. These two, they're like mutants, these two. And I say that in a great way. They're like two mutants. And I think there'll be a mix of probably some fun-loving stories and some behind-the-scenes stuff. And they'll cross the line. And, you just never know.
It'll be great for the Olympics. If they're recording in the Olympics, that'll be really, really cool.
Why don't you read Jimmy Dowd into the show with Bauer here, Johnny? Yeah. And then let's ask him his opinion on the Tkachuk podcast and what he thinks it means to the game, because this is a guy who's been a player. You go back to, he was a college player at Lake State. He plays in the NHL for 10 different teams. He's played through different decades. Now his kids play. One kid's a pro, one kid's a college player. So he's seen the evolution of the players. He's been a part of it. So read
won a cup with Jersey too, right?
And he won a cup. Fucking rights he did. He was an listen, a guy who was just a nails a nails third line player, man, and just knew what he was and was great at it. So, all right, let's bring him on and ask him his opinion on this topic.
All right, so before we bring on Jim Dowd, just want to give a quick word from our sponsor, Bauer. This segment is a presentation of Bauer and the Bauer Pulse, the first Bauer stick to feature their latest kick point innovation, powered by 2 distinct energy zones in the shaft. This stick is designed to adapt to your game with loadability and precision of a mid kick and the explosive, unexpected release of a low kick. Catch goaltenders by surprise with a quick shot they'll never see coming, or make dynamic plays in the zone that will have defenders scrambling. Combine that with a new raised grip ink on the shaft, and Pulse will stay in your hands while you put the game in your hands. Exclusive to the Bauer Hockey, the Pulse contains ultra lightweight and rigid boron fiber material, which creates a high strength to weight ratio and optimizes energy storage and increases reactivity, featured on 40 flex sticks and above. For more information, check out Bauer.com. And with that, let's bring on Jim Dowd. Jim, first of all, great to meet you. Thanks for doing this morning, and we're really happy to have you on here.
Oh, we don't have his audio.
-1 for Vic.
Vic, can we get his audio up here? Sorry, this is on our producer, Jimmy. This is not on you. We have had this problem before, so we generally have a hashtag for our show, and it is Blame Vic. So he'll work on getting your audio up in the background, Jimmy. And I'm gonna give some people a couple of little hot facts here about Jimmy Dowd before we have him on the show. Okay, he is the all-time leading scorer at Lake State, and I'll say this. To those of you who are like newer to college hockey, you're probably thinking, so what? It's Lake State. Well, Lake State has a very, very rich history.
That's where Nightingale played. We just had Nightingale on. He played at Lake State before he transferred to Michigan State.
Transferred, but they had some crazy talented teams. I mean, they had John Graham back in the day. Jimmy Dowd played there from 87 to 91.
Doug Waite.
Dougie Waite. Jimmy Dowd was a national champion and a Stanley Cup champion, and there's not a lot of guys who have done that. He won a national championship in 87, 88. Single season record of 92 points. He was CCHA Player of the Year, All-American. I mean, this guy, he did a lot in college hockey. And I think one of the things that I'm so impressed with, and I kind of want to ask him about, is like, how hard do you think the transition, Johnny, for a guy like that, who was just lighting it up offensively? Then he gets into the NHL and he's got to completely rediscover his game and learn how to be one of the best bottom 6 players he could be in the National Hockey League. Because imagine breaking into the NHL with the New Jersey Devils of the early 90s, a team that would give up what? Like 4 grade A scoring chances every night. I mean, those guys were absolute stalwarts defensively those years. And even Jay Pandolfo was around for some of those years. Yeah. He was on that 95 team, right? So, you know, not a lot of players can do that and like completely reinvent themselves as a pro coming out of the NCAA.
And in that 1994 season, the year the Devils lost to the Rangers in that, you know, classic Game 7, Stephane Matteau double overtime wraparound goal, Dowd actually played 19 playoff games, but 15 regular season games. Like, that's kind of crazy too. Imagine joining a team and playing in more games in the postseason than you do in the regular season. Like, that doesn't really happen often for players.
What year was that, Johnny?
That was the 94 year, the year the Rangers beat the Devils in that Game 7. And the Devils came back the following year and obviously won the Stanley Cup.
It's like a Chris Kreider intro, right?
Probably, yeah. Kreider, I'm sure, played more playoff games.
Same thing. Charlie McAvoy, Chris Kreider. There hasn't been a lot of guys that came right in and went on a run.
Well, I don't know if that was right. I think he had 2 years.
It would have been a few years in, but I just mean your introduction into the NHL is basically the playoffs.
Yeah, that's insane. Imagine like, and the thing with like a guy like Cale too, I guess, if we're just like comparing, like Jack Eichel took like, well, no, Jack Eichel took like 10 years or 9 years to even make the playoffs, and like Cale stepped in right away to a playoff game. You know what I mean? Like that's like kind of crazy too. Like I don't think Jeff Skinner played in the playoffs till last year. You know, there are some guys who never get in the playoffs. You know, and then you have guys like that who just step in and play playoff hockey. Like, that's what's so crazy about the NHL sometimes too. And there's nothing like this sport, right? Like, no one does that in baseball. No one does that in basketball. No one does that in football. Like, you don't just step into a playoff game out of college.
Yeah. Well, we and it's funny. We were talking about Makar and how he stepped right in. on game notes yesterday. Cause like I brought it up. I was like, boys, like, cause Army was calling that Colorado game.
You did
I
great,
was
by
like,
the way, on that show yesterday.
oh, thank you.
I love those guys.
Cale Makar just like jumps right into the National Hockey League, and like he's just been the most competitive guy. Like every New York Boost is telling us that Pando didn't start in New Jersey till 96, 97. So was it 96 was the cup in
No,
that Devils Cup?
95.
96.
95.
So
94,
then
95. They
must
lost
have
the
been
Rangers, came back and
Pando
won.
must have been on the 01 team. So I thank you for that. Who was that? New York Boost? Yeah, thank you for the correction on that. Where would we be without the chat keeping us honest? So, all right, look. While we're waiting for Jimmy Dowd, Johnny, let's talk about that Rangers game last night because, you in your typical fashion, you had to like dramatize it and say it was the craziest hockey game you've ever seen in your life. It's definitely not that. Come on.
There was 3 goals on the first 4 shots in the game.
I understand that, but really the craziest game
you've Vasilevskiy against Shesterkin? And Vasilevskiy against Shesterkin, and they have 3 goals on 4 shots?
Shesterkin's overpaid. I can't believe they gave him that contract. I'm kidding.
I mean,
I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, no, I'm not
all
for
that contract.
But
what is the difference the last 2 nights for the New York Rangers? I mean, because it seems to me like they're playing with some swagger now. And even they showed at one point the bench and they showed Mike Sullivan and he had this sort of, I want to say this sort of grin of like, go fuck yourself. I told you so on his face as the Rangers just continued to score. But he was also pretty pissed with his interview with, was it Jackie? Yeah, I think it was with Jackie. And he said, like, this was not the game plan. This was not how we wanted to play tonight. And John Cooper said the same thing. Cooper was pissed. I mean, he was listing play after play. And look, who's been a bigger Braden Point fan the last couple of years than I have? Not many people. He is not having a good season. I mean, he's locked into a roster spot on Team Canada. There was a shift yesterday where, 2 blatant turnovers and missed coverages by him, and boom, puck is in the back of the net. I think it was on the Borgen goal, but like, where's Braden Point going there? I mean, you guys know I love him in this chat, but you also know I take no prisoners. You got to play better. Like, you're going to take him over Celebrini or Bedard, who are having unbelievable years. And Point is not looking good at this moment. I mean, not okay.
You also got to keep in mind last night, Tampa had no Cirelli, no Hedman, no McDonough, and then Brandon Hagel gets hurt in like the first, 4 minutes of that game. He's taken out the rest of the game too. Like they were missing significant pieces last night. Obviously they had that top line intact of Gensel, Point, Kucherov, and like you said, like Braden Point didn't really have the Braden Point type of game. Gensel's breakaway goal was pretty nice. Again, like I think that was was that the shorthanded one? There's so many goals, so hard to keep track of. But the Rangers, they start the game with the power play goal, and if they score first, their confidence is up, right? They scored first against Nashville. They haven't scored first in many games this year, so I think that got them going a little bit. But we do have Jimmy Dowd back, I think, so we're going to try him again. I think Vic got it going. Let's see if it works. Jimmy,
we're
you there?
Good, guys. We're good to go.
There he is.
We're good.
Okay, here we go.
Great to have you. Colby, I'll let you kick it off here.
So I don't know how much you heard before you came on, and you're a guy that
I heard everything, guys.
So you've touched so many generations of this sport, and you've seen the evolution of it as a player, then just a spectator, now as a hockey dad, a hockey coach. By the way, yesterday, I don't know if this is something you'd be interested in, but I did openly put your name in the ring to be the head coach of the new team in Trenton. I know, like I just said,
the Utah Mammoth bringing their the Utah Grizzlies.
I said I've got a coach. Yes. I said, Bill Armstrong, if you're listening to me, I've got your next coach. So I don't know if that's something you'd be interested in, but I did put you up for that yesterday on the show.
Nice.
But Jimmy,
I love it. Of course. 45 minutes from my house. Love
Perfect. It. You've seen the evolution of this sport, and you've seen the evolution of hockey players. When you see the Tkachuk brothers are launching a podcast, what is your reaction to that? And what do you think that does for the game of hockey?
I think it's great. It's right up their alley. First of all, their personality. And I mean, they're the 2 most well-known guys in not only in the U.S. but almost all of hockey right now. what their father did in the NHL and what they've done for like I said, not only USA Hockey, but hockey in general now. I think it's great. It's not a bad thing, that's for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if you had any teammates like back on the Devils or your time in Minnesota that would be doing something like this. How would your teammates like react in the locker room, right? Like if you guys, let's say you guys get smoked 6-2 one night and you have a teammate recording a podcast the next day, like what kind of things are being said in the locker? Like I'm just curious because that's
the
that's
only one that would
happen
have
in
got away
hockey,
with
right?
it. Yeah, the only one that could get away with it would be Dano. Danico. But yeah, it's just different now, guys. That's all. And you just have to adjust. I mean, it's like when they changed the rules back in the day. I remember a bunch of us were all like, upset. It's just the evolution of hockey, of sports, of life in general. You know what I mean? Like I said, this is not going to be a negative thing. It's nothing but a positive, and it brings more attention to the NHL, to hockey in general. And we are trying to grow the game everywhere.
Yeah, and no one's doing it more than them.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's unreal. I mean, from what happened in the Four Nations last year, everywhere. I mean, and that's where, and they're both hurt right now, which is a bummer. You know what I mean? Because like them or not, they're one of those. Everybody loves watching them play, whether you like them or not, and that's the key.
And they both play the game. They're throwback players with new age ability and new age skill, and I think that type of play, it just it connects so many fans together because you've got the traditionalists, you've got the new age fans. It's like a little bit of everything for everyone. And it almost brings, I feel like, generations of hockey players together. I personally love it. Jimmy, I want to see more guys do it. I want to see it more normalized. But I also think, listen, you're going to get shit from your teammates. That's the best part, right?
Course.
Being in the room with the boys.
Yeah. And like you said, I listened to everything you guys said earlier, but it's going to be interesting if, the controversy and all that. You hope it doesn't go sour. That's all. You just hope for the best. You know what I mean? Yeah. And again, at the end of the day, it's about growing the game and getting more young kids and more people, everybody of all ages into hockey.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
You look at a guy like Micah Parsons, and it's created problems for him. It has, and it hasn't for the Kelseys, but it did for Micah Parsons in the NFL. So which way will it go? All right, listen, we don't want to spend the whole time we have with you talking about other people. I think one of the questions that I was really interested to ask you today, Jimmy, you played for 10 teams in the NHL, but you're from New Jersey and you played for the New Jersey Devils and you won a cup with the New Jersey Devils. What, do you consider yourself, like, is that where your heart lies with the New Jersey Devils? And does that bring more, was that a more pressure packed situation for you being a Brick, being from Brick and playing right up the road at in Newark?
No, I mean, it was not pressure at all. Pretty funny story. So back in the day, I'm 56 years old. If you weren't from Minnesota, Massachusetts, Chicago, or Michigan, I tell this story all the time, they didn't even look at you. That's why I do stuff with kids these days. You just need one person to give you a chance. You know what I mean? Again, back in the day, I'm 56 years old. If you weren't from Minnesota, Massachusetts, Chicago, or Michigan, they literally didn't even look at you. I had one school take a chance on me. The rest is history. And then I'll never forget, Frank Anzalone and Jeff Jackson. Frank Anzalone was the head coach, Jeff Jackson, the assistant. They called me up right before the draft in '87, said, "You're probably going to get drafted." I was like, "What?" I wasn't even thinking about getting drafted. And I never told anybody this. Back in the day, there were 12 rounds of the draft. And I said to myself, I'm like, the only team I really didn't want to get drafted by was the Devils because I thought it would have been a charity pick. And I'll never forget, there was no cell phones back then. It was about 5:15, and Marshall Johnston called my house. I was still home. I wasn't even paying attention. I was getting ready to go out to a party. And he called my house, and he was the director of player personnel for the Devils at the time. Called me and said, "Hey, we just drafted you, blah, 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 in the 8th round." So my thought process, you know me, Colby, I'm a positive guy.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, I was thinking, okay, wow, great. Okay, it's the 8th round, not the 12th, so it's not really a charity pick. But to answer your question, it was unbelievable. And it's amazing. To this day, it hasn't happened. I mean, I'm 56 years old, the first and only New Jersey native to grow up, just play Brick Hockey Club, Brick High School, drafted right out of high school, go right to Lake Superior, right from high school, and play for the Devils, win a Stanley Cup. It hasn't happened before me. It hasn't happened since. So, and I've been plugging New Jersey hockey players for 35 years. I've been telling people there's good hockey players from Jersey. And the best part about USA Hockey now, it doesn't matter where you're from. There's kids coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Did
think
you catch up with so James Van Riemsdyk is a regular on our show. He comes on every other week. He's another guy from Brick, right? Right in your backyard. He
Yep.
wore that
He's
green
from
uniform.
Middletown. Yeah, he's from Middletown, New Jersey, but played for the Brick Hockey Club, and his
Yeah.
Bobby
story's
Ryan
great
too.
The whole family. You know what I
Different
mean?
area.
Bobby Ryan, he's
South
not
Jersey.
he's not really a
Is that
Jersey
different?
guy.
Yeah.
he
different?
left when he was a little kid. He left when he was young,
Oh.
really young kid. But I mean, if you want to say he's from Jersey, you can. But yeah, the Van Riemsdyk family's great, all of them, great people. And but like I said, there's more and more kids coming from Jersey these days, all over the country. It doesn't matter.
Well, Jimmy, you mentioned you're a positive guy. I also heard you're a very superstitious guy, or at least you were a superstitious guy. I got to hear some locker room stories because I was told that the tape balls were a big problem with you. Like Scotty Gomez would throw a tape ball next to the garbage because he knew you'd get up and pick it up, and the guys used to mess with you. And what kind of superstitions did you have as a player?
I don't know, man. Just everything had to be in order. You know what I mean? It's not a superstition, routine, right, guys? But no, just everything in order, and I like nice and neat, man. My whole stick is look good, feel good, play good. You know what I mean? So
Did you invent that?
I don't know who invented it, but yeah, that's like just keep everything in order. Everything lined up. A little bit of OCD, if you want to call it that. Whatever. But it's just part of the routine. I used to catch flack for it. The trainers were great. They loved it. They go by fixing everybody's stall. They never had to fix mine. I gave a little less work to the trainers.
What was Jeff Jackson like back then, Jimmy? And I love that you brought his name up because this is one of the beauties of hockey. Like, you have an opportunity to connect with people so much older or younger than you in this great game of hockey, right? Like you mentioned playing for Jeff Jackson. I had Jeff Jackson at the World Junior tryouts. They'd split us up into blue and white, and then we'd play against Sweden and Finland up in Lake Placid. I don't think they do that anymore. It's like a thing in Michigan now. But so like I got to play for Jeff Jackson too. Albeit in a short little tournament. You played for Jeff Jackson. You and I are I was born in 89, Jimmy. So we're a little bit different in age. One of the beauties of hockey though, is you get to play for people and you have a teammate. Like I was 20 years old and I'm playing with Adam Foote, right? I know you would have played against Adam Foote. Like there's just so much great connectivity amongst the hockey family.
Oh yeah. Jeff Jackson. Like I mean, Lake Superior back in the day, my freshman was 87, 88. Frank Anzalone was the head coach, Jeff Jackson assistant, Jim Rock the other assistant. So my first 3 years, it was that coaching staff. And then my senior year, Anzalone went to Newmarket in the AHL. Jeff Jackson took over, Jim Rock, and he brought in Ron Ralston, as the other assistant. And that's how they got Brian. That's how they got Brian Ralston there. But yeah, we Jeff Jackson's amazing, and he's the one that started the NTDP too as well. But yeah, I was blessed, fortunate, whatever you want to call it, to play for some great coaches, yeah, I loved every second, my 4 years at Lake State. The Devils tried to get me to sign after my junior year. It took me literally less than 10 seconds. Like, I loved it. I wanted to go back. I wanted to graduate, wanted to try to win another national championship. And if you look back at that senior year there, my senior year, we went 28 straight games without a loss. And then we got upset in the quarterfinals.
Wow.
Unreal.
No way.
So
to
I
who?
heard you guys talking about, it was Clarkson at Lake State. It was best 2 out of 3, and it took the refs over an hour to get out of that building. No, that Darren Madeley was.
Okay.
Yeah, Graham was after me. Yep,
Okay.
Graham was after me.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
and by the way, I've touched everybody. You said earlier Shane Knighty. Yeah, I played with him in Calgary's farm system. So
it's one of the coolest parts of hockey, and that's what I've found is like you play a few games with a guy who's much older than you he was 20 at one point playing with guys who were 35 and 37 and so you just get this opportunity to connect with people that are up and down. So I wanted to switch gears for a second here, Johnny, with Jimmy if we can, and I want to talk to you a little bit about what you have going on now because you and I have gotten close in the last couple of years. We talk quite frequently, and you've helped our team with players and working with players, and you just have such a big hand in youth hockey in that Central Jersey area. So many players really come to you for help, and I've sort of learned that over the last couple of years. And you've gotten into this performance mindset, coaching and just helping guys through the trials and tribulations, not just on the ice, but off the ice. So, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that work, because I personally believe, especially for the young players, there's just so much value in having a guy like you working with players in our area.
Yeah, it's really good. I truly believe the two missing components. I mean, everybody nowadays can skate, they can pass, they can shoot. The skill is all through the roof. All the extra training they do. The two biggest things that I don't think I know they're missing is the nutrition piece. I got that covered, and the mindset stuff. Mike Hartman. You guys remember Mike Hartman? Played 9 years in the NHL. He's been doing this for like 20. Yeah, he's got me. He's been doing this for 20 years. He got me into it a few years ago. I'm a certified axiology practitioner. That's the study of values. And, if you just go to jimdowd.com, you can check out what I do, and there's these assessments that these kids get. It shows where their mindset's at. And then we come up with I have a couple different programs for that. But yeah, like I said, these kids, it's the nutrition and the mindset that they're missing. Because, I mean, the skill is through the roof. I mean, there's no more, remember Tim Kerr back in the day, Dave Andreychuk, even Andrew Brunette, one of my best friends. I mean, like, unbelievable what he did in the NHL. And they said he couldn't play in the NHL because he couldn't skate. All of a sudden, he has an amazing career. But nowadays, everyone's flying around, skating around. Again, the skill is through the roof. But those are the two biggest missing components is the nutrition and the mindset. And I have both of those covered. And I love it. It's very rewarding. You know what I mean?
And
Colby, let me, if I can,
because the nutrition side, as you're go ahead, Johnny.
No, I just want to ask specifically, because I heard you had like a water routine when you were playing. Like, you were very disciplined.
So here's what happened. Another routine. So here's what happened. So people always want me to tell stories about, because I'm Jim Dowd, the NHL hockey player, my nutrition stuff. So listen, the easy part was getting to the NHL. I was the best in New Jersey as a kid, best in high school, went to college, best in the country. I kept progressing. Signed a NHL deal, was in the minor leagues. I was the best. I got to the NHL. I had signed 2 nice contracts, won a Stanley Cup, was on top of the world, 27 years old, was married, didn't have kids yet. Got sent back to the minors at 27 years old. I was like, whoa, what just happened? We went from the penthouse to the outhouse. I was in the last year of my NHL deal playing in Hamilton for the Edmonton Oilers farm team. And we were 27. We had all these teams from Europe calling us. We could have went there and made great money. But I said to my wife, honey, I said, listen, let's give it one more year. We're only 27 years old. If we don't make it back, we'll go to Europe, play as long as we can. I go, I don't know how we're getting back to the NHL, but we're getting back. And that's when we got into the whole organic, all natural way of living, supplements and all that stuff. And I got my head out of my rear end. I went from 192 pounds down to 182 within 30 days. I cut out all the BS. I got into these routines with water, with healthy foods, with supplements, and I spent the next 12 straight years without a day in the minors. You know what I mean? So I got dialed in, and I'm a firm believer when you get your mind right, your body right through proper nutrition. Forget hockey, just life in general works a lot better.
And I'm wondering, is that sort of when ID Life was born, even though it maybe it wasn't actually born that day?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Like in your mind, when you built your company, was in that time in the 90s?
Yeah, I mean, it was, and you know what? The first guy when I remember back in the day was James Patrick. James Patrick, I played with him, and he was into all this. He was insane shape. I played with him in Calgary, and he was close to 40 years old. You know what I mean? But he was like one of the first guys. And then it just didn't cross my mind then because, I wasn't paying attention to it. But looking back now, there's so many guys. It's just the evolution of everything, and I mean, what they have for these kids in the locker room now in the NHL, it's unbelievable. The meals they get to them. And it's just so more advanced now, But again, that was going back to what you said. Yes. And then my nutrition company, which we launched in 2011. You know what I mean? That's my two passions: nutrition and helping these kids with their mindset. And then the deal, guys. These cell phones, everyone's comparing themselves to everybody. Everybody just throws their positive, the good stuff up there, but everyone's going through something, and everybody needs help. Especially these young kids, because all they do is compare themselves to everybody.
I really wish I knew more about nutrition in my playing career. Like I was playing junior hockey, 19 years old, and my pregame meal was chicken parm and pasta at 3:30. 3:30, I'd be playing at 7. I'd be burping and full in the first period, and I'd drink soda on game day. Like I just didn't. You didn't know. I had no idea.
And then after the game, chicken wings.
Potatoes.
After the game, chicken wings, fried food, chicken wings, everything. It's just,
mean,
it
look,
really
no
has
idea.
come a long way.
The
Yeah.
first place I learned anything was when we would go to rookie camp or development camp with the Colorado Avalanche. And I remember Craig Billington was the assistant general manager at the time. And we Tony Granato was the head coach in Colorado, and we didn't even go on the ice at development camp, Jimmy. They brought us in. We did nutrition, we did team bonding, we did off ice training. Believe it or not, like, to me, the Avs had it right in 2008 or 9 when I started going to development camp. Like, there was no need for us to be on the ice. It was way more impactful to learn about nutrition. They gave us these Google Docs, and we had to write all of our meals in, and we had to like track all the things that we were eating, and there were all these guidelines on what we should be eating. And it was really the first time, I was probably 18 years old, that I ever really got any real nutritional experience or information, and it helped. It really did. It really sort of changed the way that I trained in the summer.
Yep. Yeah. And you know what? Looking back on those Devils teams that I was on, I look back, those guys were shredded, like Scott Stevens. You know what I mean? There's some guys that are freak of nature. So let's get one thing straight. Like Stéphane Richer and Claude Lemieux. You know, those two guys were just freaks of nature. But yeah, when you get dialed in with that, it's going to take your game to the next level. And you look at these kids now, you hear the stories of Connor Bedard never eating fast food, you know, McKinnon, these guys, Crosby, all of them. You know, people just think they're talented. No, they work at it both on and off the ice, and nutrition's a huge, huge part of it.
Jimmy, I got one more question for you, just about the bounce back. Obviously I wasn't alive for it, but I don't know if you know, I'm a big New York Ranger fan. The 94 year obviously is a year that is looked upon as, one of the best ever. But 95, you guys bounced back and win the cup right after what I'm sure was one of the most heartbreaking moments of your career. And in today's game, we're always talking about the Oilers and how McDavid and Leon and the Oilers were heartbroken, but they made it right back to the cup, and it happened again. And now we're like sitting here saying, all right, he extended for 2 more years and then that's it. He's going to move on. But you're someone who lived it firsthand. Like, what does it take to get back all the way there, go through 82 games, just knowing how close you were? I mean, I can't imagine what it was like for you guys to actually have that heartbreak and then come back the next year and actually do it and get it done.
Yeah, and if you look back at that regular season and the next year, we ended up coming in 6th. I mean, in sixth place, and it all fell into line there. It's one of those, you have to go through that to get to the top, because everyone says that series is probably one of the best series of all time, top 3 series of all time. The 94 series with the Rangers. And that was the worst part of about that series wasn't game 7, it was game 6. You know what I mean? We were they had nothing going on for, the first 38 and a half minutes. It was about a minute and a half left in game 6, and Kovalev scored that goal, and then that game was over right there. So that was more devastating than game 7. But and then the next year, if you look at that lineup, from top to bottom, Brodeur, Terreri, we had, our D was Scott Stevens, Scott Niedermayer, Bruce Driver, Kenny Danico, Sean Chambers. Tommy Abilene was supposedly our 6th defenseman. He played freaking 15 years in the NHL. You know what I mean? And the lines we had, we swapped out, Bernie Nichols. We brought in Neil Broughton, to go with John McLean and Claude Lemieux. And then, we had Stéphane Richer with Chorsky and Carpenter on our checking line. And Richer was unbelievable. He was insane those 2 years. And then you had the crash line, you know what I mean? But everything just fell into place, and we were just a well-oiled machine. And we went through that the year before, and we knew how close we were. And it's one of those, we just rolled, and we were scared as could be against the Red Wings, you know what I mean? In the finals there. And they were supposed to sweep us. They were the President's Trophies winners. And we ended up just suffocating them and just getting timely goals every single game and sweeping them. So it really was amazing. Well, I think we were 16-4. We were 16-4.
Wow.
In that run.
That's an insane run. Yeah.
We can always expect Johnny to make it about the New York Rangers on this show.
I made it about the Devils.
That's kind of his thing, Jimmy. But I
actually made it about the Oilers.
Well.
I hate all New York teams since '94. Since we lost in Game 7, I just every one of them.
We can have a love.
That's all of them. Yeah.
Don't worry, Jimmy. You were a Devil crushing young Flyers fans, kids' dreams all through the 90s. So
Yeah.
I want to go more personal with you for my last question before we let you go.
Sure.
And your sons, Anthony and Jimmy, one is at Arizona State and the other one is playing in Adirondack for the Devils farm team. But I want to focus a little more on Jimmy Jr. right now. And when you look at Jimmy Jr.'s elite prospects page, his photograph on that page is himself in a New Jersey Devils uniform playing in the rookie tournament for the New Jersey Devils this past year, this past training camp. When I see that and I think about what you have meant to this state of New Jersey and hockey and what you did as a New Jersey Devil, I got to think that is such and knowing you to be this ultimately, the ultimate optimistic guy and a sweet sort of loving romantic for the game, that's got to be, a feeling that's hard to verbalize because it's just so cool to see that with that name on the back of a Devils jersey in 2025.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Like when a couple teams were, talking to, Cam Stewart's his agent and all that. And when a couple teams were talking to him, the Devils weren't anywhere in the picture. Then all of a sudden they called out of the blue. And then they personally called him up and he was all excited and fired up. But it was pretty cool to see. And even going back to what I said earlier in the story, I'm 56 years old and, there hasn't been a kid that's grown up in New Jersey, be drafted by them, play for them, win a Stanley Cup before me or after me. So just to have him there at the rookie camp and the opportunity that they're giving him, very grateful for. You know what I mean? And, he's excited, he's fired up, and he's playing pro hockey, in the Devils organization, which is, as you see, I'm smiling. So it's a pretty cool thing.
2 goals the other
of all
night.
the teams
2
for
goals.
it to have. Yeah, it was great. He scored his first goal the other night. And then not too long after that, scored a second goal. And then he had a little chance for the hat trick there. But, it's a process, man, pro hockey. You just they don't care what you did, where you came from. Just get in there and work and grind it out and create your own identity. That's all. And my biggest thing was just, what are you doing to help the team win? Because it doesn't matter whether you're in the American League, the East Coast, when you're on a winning team, everybody wants to come and see what's going on. So just help the team win, and you'll move up the ladder. But you know the deal. Pro hockey, get in there, work hard, grind it out, create your own identity. And you just need, again, it goes back to, you just need one person to like you. That's it.
Yeah,
he also no, go Colby.
No, I was just gonna say it's the truest thing I've ever heard, because it's with one person in the right spot means something for them to have you be successful. It changes the way they look at your mistakes. It changes the way they look at your positives. And it's important having that little angel, that guardian angel over your shoulder in any organization sometimes is the difference between making it and not making it. Because you and I both know, Jimmy, the margin when you get to that level, and especially the American League, the margin is slim, between a second liner in the American League and a third liner in the National League, and probably right on down a second liner, a second pair guy in the coast versus a, second pair guy in the American League as a defenseman, and a lot of goaltenders go through the East Coast League too. So it matters so much. And, I just want to say this to you, Jimmy, and I'm sure Johnny has one more thing because he always does, but I want to just remind everybody who's listening to our show, if you're from the New Jersey area, if you're from the PA area, you're from the New York area especially, go check out jimdowd.com. If you have kids that are playing hockey and you feel like there's just a little missing and you need a steadying bit of advice and a guiding hand, reach out to Jim, because I have seen it firsthand with players that even play for me in New Jersey at the Titans. And they lean on Jimmy's expertise, and it's always really helpful for us to be able to work closely with Jimmy on that. And I know we have a good audience for this show in this sort of tri-state area. So it's easy to get in touch with him. We'll put his email in the chat if you want to send him an email. We already put your website in the chat, Jimmy, so people can get to
Cool.
it.
Thank you. Yep.
And Johnny,
Perfect.
I'll let you take the final word here before we thank Jimmy and we say goodbye.
You know what? I didn't have one, but I actually just came up with one. And it's a question I actually do love asking to guys who won a cup in a place that means a lot to them, right? And obviously being a Jersey guy, like, you know, the Devils are a team this year that's kind of knocking on the door. I think people expect a lot of them, even though they're fighting some injuries right now. But if you won the Stanley Cup in the year 2026, like, where in Jersey are you bringing it? Like, I think people are curious to know where the Devils would want to celebrate with it, because, you know, the Panthers have this like elbow room, and, you know, Vegas obviously has the whole city of, you know, Vegas and Omnia and all that kind of stuff. But curious what a guy from New Jersey, like, where would he bring it in 2026?
Oh man, I'd bring it right down to Jenkinson's at the shore here. Right at the shore, right? Yeah. But you're back in, I mean, there's a bunch of different places, but yeah, Jersey guy, depends on where you're from, right? Yeah, but here I'm down in the Point Pleasant Beach. We live in Point Pleasant Beach now, next town over from Brick, my hometown. But yeah, I mean, right at the shore, man, right on the ocean. That's where I would bring it. You know, it's a great spot. You know, Point Pleasant Beach. It's an hour south of Manhattan. You know, it's about an hour south of Newark. But if you've never been to Jenkinson's Boardwalk, it's amazing. It's the nicest one in Jersey, in my opinion. And that's what most people say. Family-oriented
Rupper
place.
told me you
it's got everything. Yeah,
sorry,
Rupper's the best.
Well, he told me you actually laid him out on the Point Pleasant Boardwalk.
Yeah, Rupper, man. When I came back, he was great. Devils brought me back for a year when I was 39. So he was my liney. We became pretty close. It was awesome. He's a good dude.
Johnny does a podcast with Rupper twice a week for Daily Faceoff too. So we have Rupper come on the show quite often. He's great. So Jimmy, you're the best. Thanks for making time for us this morning. We'll be following Anthony and Jimmy and hoping to see ASU make some noise this year in the NCHC.
Yep.
And check out the Adirondack. Are they the Devils? Do they use the
Adirondack Thunder? Yep, Adirondack Thunder.
The Devils minor league team that Jimmy Jr. plays for, and we'll check in with you again maybe when the Devils are on a cup run this year. All right.
Yes. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, Jimmy.
All right, Jimmy.
Appreciate it. Awesome stuff. What a nice guy, huh? Yeah.
One of the most positive guys in the sport of hockey I've ever met. Honestly, I mean, Jimmy helps evaluate our training camp and helps pick our NA team. And just the positivity he brings to that room is just so important, because, you know, it can get negative in those situations.
Yeah.
So great having him on, Johnny. I wanted to, you know, D White is asking us if we can talk about that finish in Philadelphia last night between the Oilers and the Flyers. And here's the question that I want to ask you. And I also want to ask the chat this question. And the game looks like it ends late with a shot by Travis Sanheim and a tip by Travis Konechny in the high slot. Sean Couturier doing God's work in front of the net, just taking a beating. Official review challenge, because it's a goal with under a minute left, and it's an offsides by a hair. And it was the right call. Owen Tippett's got to be more disciplined. But here's my question. And, you know, whether he steps on sides or off sides in that situation, there's no change to the play, right? The Oilers are backing in. So it's not as if this play was affected by this. And a lot of people, and there's the first comment in the chat from Jeremiah, and it says, you know, F the offsides review, stupid effing thing that the NHL did. The offsides doesn't affect this play. And so some people are going to say, oh, they shouldn't review it. It's stupid. It would be a goal anyway. My take is offsides is offsides. The rules are the rules. Stay on sides, Owen Tippett. I think these games are too important. Points are too important that if we have the technology to figure that out, we should figure it out. That offsides review took no more than 30 seconds. So I'm all for it. But what do you think, Johnny? Should that just be let go? Should they be automatically reviewing that in the last minute? No, right?
I'm all for human error. I think that's what's part of the game, and I would hate for everything to be reviewed. But offsides to me is like the one, like it should be like tennis, right? Where there is like a tracker in the ball, and if the ball goes out, like there's an automatic voice that says the ball is.
You'd need trackers in the skates
All right,
too.
Whatever. I'm not talking so literally, but like,
okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
but
that's
I
the
don't
one
think you're
thing.
wrong. I do think they need to figure out a way to automate it and make it so it's
just blown dead.
And
blown dead.
It's not even a question. Like shot spot technology, there's no question. It's like it's accurate.
It's in situations like this though, where you think about like I guess that was a big moment, right? Dying seconds of a game, it's tied, and the goal gets reviewed and called back. Like if this is a playoff game and a controversial like game 6, game 7, whatever you want to call it, and it has to come down to offside review, like that sucks. Like no one wants a great moment like that to be taken away, but also like there was a great video last year with the Seattle Kraken video coaches, and they talked about how offside is the one thing that if it's challenged, like they know 100% of the time their call or their take is accurate. Like if you see an offside review coming, it's pretty much accurate.
Unless it's a possession one. Those are the only
like
gray
45
ones.
seconds after.
No.
Oh, like if you're skating backwards and carrying it in.
If you're bringing it in, are you possessing it? Do you not have it possessed? Those are the only gray area calls now, because the blue line cams are so good that you're right. If they're challenging one when it's just a skate, they know one way or the other.
Yeah, but credit to Vasilevskiy on the overtime goal. Like he drags his foot, he stays on side. Like that's something you have to do.
I'm saying. Do better, Owen Tippett. Do better. Yeah. And then did you see how when Michkov scored his goal in that game, nobody went over to celebrate with him? Couturier rolled his eyes. He didn't go over and celebrate with them. Michkov had to celebrate by himself. Oh wait, that didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, Johnny, I know you still have to read and talk about our friends at who do we have?
Prime.
We got to talk about our
Amazon
friends
Prime.
at Amazon Prime. Yeah.
So I actually want to switch gears for a sec, Colby. This will be a segment presented by Amazon Prime, Prime Monday Night Hockey, Prime Monday Night Hockey streams all national regular season Monday night games on Prime Video in Canada and is available free to Prime members in Canada. Stream Prime Monday Night Hockey exclusively on Prime Video and experience thrilling goals, dramatic plays from the NHL. Monday nights are hockey nights, so don't miss a moment of the action. Coming up on Monday, Cole Caulfield and the Habs visit Columbus to take on Kirill Marchenko and the Blue Jackets. Check out the link in our description for the Prime Monday Night Hockey schedule on Prime Video, or go to primevideo.com/NHL. You can subscribe with a 30-day free trial to Prime Video to watch Monday Night Hockey and the new season of Faceoff. So download the app or go to primevideo.com. Colby, do you want to talk about the Devils and Blackhawks last night, or should we announce the next 2 players that were named to the U.S. College Selects team for the Spengler Cup?
Let's 2 or 3 minutes for that game, and then we can rip a couple of names for the Spengler Cup. Because we were privy to that information, so we can do that. But let's go a couple of minutes on that game because it was an exciting game. I felt I didn't see the end of the game. I had to rewatch this morning.
It was wild.
The last 10-12 minutes of the game, I did fall asleep. But a fast-paced game, no doubt. And Bedard continues to produce offensively. How about Ryan Green playing 20 minutes a night right now for the Blackhawks as a first-year centerman? That's pretty good stuff.
Had a great chance when it was 2-2 also.
Yeah.
Flying down the right side.
Lot to like from that game. And look, Jeff Blashill deserves a ton of credit, man. And I know the Blackhawks didn't win that game, but I'm watching them and I'm like, these guys they're tough defensively. The way they stay on top of you, the way that you're finally seeing their team speed. The one thing I didn't love was on which goal was it? Was it Mercer? The backdoor goal was Mercer's goal?
It was Nemitz. It was Nemitz's second goal.
Nemitz backdoor second goal. No, third goal. Third goal.
The tying goal.
Third goal.
3-3.
So it was third goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did not like how Connor Bedard came back into the zone and was lost defensively. Keep an eye on Bedard right here. Pause it, Vic. Pause it. If you saw a few seconds earlier, Bedard was pointing at Crevier to take this guy, or maybe even Vlasic to take this guy. Right now, you, as the centerman, you can't duplicate there and forget about all the other responsibilities. Now, Sam Lafferty doesn't do a great job here in the top of your screen either, but Like, this is, to me, even though Bedard is tearing it up offensively, this is where he's going to have a hard time getting on Team Canada, because in order to play center or play in that type of stakes, your D-zone coverage just has to be better and more aware than that. And it's one play, and he's been tremendous lately. And honestly, like, the more I watch him, the more I'm like, man, I owe this kid an apology. Like, I said I thought he'd be an all-star in the NHL, but I said I didn't think he'd be a superstar. Listen, I'm watching night in and night out. I'm wrong. Like, he is trending towards, holy shit, he is a superstar. He's trending that way. And so just the fight and the compete in his game is so much different than the other seasons that we've seen him play. But that play right there is, in my opinion, a little bit of a microcosm as to why he won't make the Canadian Olympic team.
Well, let me ask you a question too, because I watch that goal and I see 4 Blackhawks players who are watching Jack Hughes with the puck and not worrying about the other guys on the ice. Like, no, but because it's Jack Hughes, right? Like, that game last night, Luke Hughes actually makes 2 plays that really hurt the Devils. He has a turnover that leads to a goal for Chicago's second goal, and then the third goal, he gets walked by Sam Lafferty in a one-on-one. I mean, beautiful move by Lafferty, which is right here, like, probably, going to end up being one of the goals of the year. Just a classic toe drag all the way to the backhand on a wide open cage. And I know some goalies are blaming Markstrom, but that's, you got to credit Lafferty for that move and pulling it off. But Luke Hughes obviously has to play that better. What?
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. But I was just going to say, Jack Hughes saved the Devils last night. Like, the Devils dominated, I think, the whole second half of that game for the most part. The Blackhawks were opportunistic on the goals they scored, but the assist Jack has to Mercer to tie the game at 2, and then the play Jack makes for Nason to feed Nemec backdoor, like to tie it at 3. I mean, Jack put the Devils on his back last night. That was a prime example of how good he is. But to your point about the Blackhawks, as good as they played, I still think the Devils kind of dominated them for the most part.
They carried
like
large swaths of that game.
Spencer Knight was amazing in that game. Spencer Knight was phenomenal. He was the whole reason it went to overtime.
Let me ask you this. Is Spencer Knight on the U.S. Olympic team? Is he?
Dude,
I mean,
no.
How? Who's going? Swayman or Spencer Knight?
Hellebuck. It's going to be Swayman. Boston's still, like, playing well. What do you mean? Swayman's been good.
I'm just asking. You've got a guy who is standing on his head night in and night out. I mean, making big time saves under big time pressure. Like, they do have lumps in their own zone. I'm just saying, like, he's played better than Joey Decord, who was talked about as the one guy who could work his way on. I'm just saying.
I don't know if
and
Demko
is injured, New York Marine. Demko, the report is he's got a groin injury. And it's going to be a little bit of time. Look, I'm not saying it's a done deal, but how do you ignore what Knight is doing right now?
Are they bringing 4 or bringing 3? They're bringing 3.
They'll bring 3 goalies. No,
yeah.
100%.
So how are you gonna take off? Imagine the politics if you take off Oettinger, Swayman. Like, how are you taking one of those guys off for Spencer Knight, who, again, like, very happy for Spencer Knight and the year he's having, but, like, the body of work is nowhere near what Swayman or Oettinger have proven throughout their career. Like, how are you removing one of those guys to bring Spencer Knight? You can't do that.
I mean, Johnny, I don't think worrying about politics is the way to build a hockey team. I just don't. I don't think that's.
We can't have the conversation of every guy who's playing well right now if they're going to go to the Olympics and, like, they're going to remove somebody who's proven it, like, their whole career.
Well, listen, Swayman had a great World Championships. There's no doubt. Last year he had a down year. This year he looks back to his A game. But again, like, you got to have the conversation, Johnny. Like, you really do. I mean, you can't just say, oh, well, he's playing well, but we're not even going to talk about it. Like, you got to be looking for guys who are playing really well. And I'm not saying he's overtaken anybody of those 3, but how can he not be part of the conversation? Like, how?
I just don't think you're removing Oettinger or Swayman from the equation. Like, I
haven't watched a lot of Dallas this year. Yeah. So, like, how's Oettinger been this year? Just curious.
He hasn't been exceptional. I mean, from the games I've seen, he hasn't been exceptional.
Oettinger has an 896, Swayman's got a 900, and Knight's got a 923. So, again, do you feel confident when you have other guys playing that well? I don't know. Like, is that he's got a 900 save percentage and over 3 goals against? Like, you have to have those conversations. And if you don't, then you're foolish, in my opinion. You're foolish. And I don't think politics and worrying about people's feelings should be coming into it. If it does, then Patrick Kane is your first line right winger or left winger, depending on what side, if you're worried about hurting feelings in politics.
That's different.
You know, like,
that's so different.
But you made a comment, well, you're worried about politics. I mean,
well, because either way, Connor Hellebuck is your starter. Oettinger and Swayman they've been to the preliminary camp. They were in Four Nations. They've been a part of that group now for a little over a year. You're just going to remove one of them because Spencer Knight's playing well? He's not going to be the starter for the Olympics. If you're not going to play him at the Olympics, what's the point of cutting one of those guys to bring him? I think that's just like, you know, that's almost like the scene of Miracle. Like, we're a family. You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to do that to one guy who's been with them for over a year now?
That's an insane take, Johnny. These guys are not traveling together, living together. They're not playing international competition together. They went to a summer camp where they didn't even go on the ice. What are you talking about? How are you comparing those two things? That is an insane comparison. Like, insane comparison.
They went through Four Nations together. What do you mean? Like, they've had experiences together, and they're still good NHL goalies.
Four Nations should automatically be in the Olympics because you're worried about breaking up a family?
No, but I'm saying Swayman and Oettinger, who are well-established NHL goalies, who
for sure
probably won't be playing anyway because Connor Hellebuck will be your number one guy. Why remove them to bring a guy who, again, you probably won't start? If Spencer Knight's going to be the starter, then do it. But if you're bringing Spencer Knight just to have him sit there and you're going to remove another guy who's been with them already, that to me just seems a little bit fucked up. No? I don't think that's so crazy to say.
Every player you bring on this tournament needs to be capable of doing the job. Because you
Oettinger and Swayman aren't capable? You're saying they're not capable?
Absolutely are capable goaltenders. But you're going to go to a tournament and you're going to say, you know what? We have Hellebuck, so who cares if the other two goaltenders are playing like shit right now because Hellebuck's going to play? What happens if Hellebuck gets hurt? I mean, like, again, you're making this like,
we're talking about Swayman and Oettinger.
And no, I get it, but your reasoning for Oettinger, who's got an 896, like, your reasoning is you don't want to break up a family. Is that what you're saying?
That's not my reasoning, but that if you're bringing a guy again who like you don't have intention on starting, it just doesn't seem like a good reason to remove somebody else. Yeah, if you want to play him, then play him. If you don't want to play him, I don't understand.
I just listen. Give us a vote on the poll here because
I think you're being just a little bit harsh on Oettinger and Swayman. Honestly,
I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that, you know, we're talking about worrying about not taking a guy who's outperforming or not having him part of the conversation.
No, Ice Club said it well. If Swayman and Oettinger were awful, you have a point, but they're not awful. Like what are we talking about?
And over 3 is not those are not good numbers. An 896 and a 3.08 goals against. Those are
Jake
bad
Oettinger
numbers.
A bad goalie? Is Jake Oettinger a bad goalie?
No, of course he's not a bad goalie, but how good has Jake Oettinger been in pressure moments in the playoffs? Let me ask you that. How good has he been?
He's had ups and downs. I mean, that 2022 year, he was probably the best goalie in the first round of the playoffs till they lost in Game 7 in overtime. He was unbelievable in that round. Then he's been a little bit rocky ever since, for sure. Jeremy Swayman has been great in the playoffs.
I just haven't seen Oettinger be so great.
So you're saying your take is you're bringing Spencer Knight over Jake Oettinger right now.
No, my take is Spencer Knight should be part of the conversation to make the U.S. Olympic team because he is playing lights out hockey for a team that had no expectations, for a team that doesn't defend all that well, and they are they still in a playoff spot today? I don't know. Like,
Blackhawks?
I'm not sure.
They should be. They got a point last night.
Okay. So this team has literally been on his back. I'm saying he should be in the conversation. No doubt in my mind, he should be in the conversation.
Sure.
No doubt.
Yeah, sure. We said the same thing about Nick Schmaltz, but you're not like taking off a player just because Nick Schmaltz is playing that well to bring him, right? Like, that's the conversation we had with Nick Schmaltz. Like, he hasn't done it with the best of best. So how do we know like he'd go there and play and do well? Like, it's best on best. Again, like I feel like this is a repeat of our Schmaltz conversation. Like, yeah, sure, the guy's, he was leading the league in points when we had the conversation, and Knight obviously has one of the better save percentages in the league right now. But what I'm saying is, if you want to remove a guy to bring a guy that you don't intend on playing, that's where I'm like, what's the point?
But what happens if you have to play him and he doesn't like? You have.
Are
to
you
plan
are
on
you starting Knight
playing.
over Swayman right now?
No, I think the way that I would probably do it is I would have Hellebuck as your number one. But remember, last year in Four Nations, when Hellebuck came out, who went in? Jake Oettinger.
Yeah, in Boston too. Boston.
Are you comfortable with Jake Oettinger being your number two, the way that he's playing this year, the way that he performed in the playoffs last year? Are you really comfortable with that? When you have other great options, it's not like Canada. Canada doesn't have great options in goal. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the depth and the options that the Americans have. I would be arguing if Thatcher Demko was playing great and he was healthy, I'd be arguing that for Thatcher Demko as well.
Look at MYR Marine's comment. He's a pretty reasonable guy.
Knight has a better save percentage than Igor. Would you take Knight on your team over Igor? I mean, no, like, I don't think that I would.
Yeah, you're just looking at numbers.
On his head. Yeah. I've seen Igor. I'm not just looking at numbers, and I've said this. I have not watched the Dallas Stars much this year. I have not.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them play maybe twice this season, so not a ton. But I see Spencer Knight standing on his head. And for me to sit here and say that I think he should be a part of the conversation, I do not think that is a crazy thought to say guys who are playing really well. Okay,
I never said that's a crazy thought.
It's not crazy to think that he's part of the conversation. I also don't think it's crazy to remove players from the World Cup roster or Four Nations Cup roster because you have better options, especially when you didn't win. They didn't win. They didn't. It wasn't the
goaltending, though.
They didn't come up with the last play.
Are you blaming goaltending?
No. Well, let me ask you a question. Who made more saves at the end of the night? Who made one more save? Who made one extra big save? Binnington.
Who was the guy who? Who was the guy who? No. Who was the guy who scored the goal versus the guy who didn't score?
Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid scores the goal. Matthews missed all the goal. Like, that's what it came down to. Matthews had three fucking chances.
They made one more play. They won. Why wouldn't USA look in the mirror and say we need to improve? We need to look to areas to improve our roster. Why would you not look at that? Why would you say, oh, politically, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings? Like, I just don't. I don't view things that way.
But that's what you've done. You're taking a guy who has Spencer Knight has not proven really much in his NHL career. He's having a good year right now, versus Oettinger and Swayman, who have proven something. They've played in the playoffs. They've played well in the playoffs, and they've been a part of Team USA. Jeremy Swayman just won the gold at the World Championships this past spring. Like, these guys have proven something, and because one guy is having a good year, you're just going to remove a guy who. Yeah, and just because one guy's playing well right now, you're going to remove someone who's proven it. Like that. That's where I'm saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong for making it a conversation, but then you're like also twisting my words and turning it into like, oh, I don't want their feelings. I don't want their feelings to get hurt. I'm not saying I don't want their feelings to get hurt. I'm saying it just doesn't make much sense. You compared it
to Miracle and pulling a guy off the team because they're
because I like to have fun and bring in different perspectives.
That team was like an actual family of being together for year-round time. This is not that case. Like, it's and not to mention
no.
Listen, just because you have one person sitting here agreeing with you,
I have multiple people.
You've been on the Joey Daccord train. No, I see it. More people are agreeing with you in the poll, so I got it. But you've been on the Joey Daccord train. Like, you've been talking about him as somebody that's challenging for that spot and challenging to get on the team. Have you not brought that up and talked about that?
I have not. Well, yeah, when he was on fire to start the year, but he was also at the fucking camp. He was invited.
Lane Hudson wasn't at the camp. They added his name. Did they not?
Oh, well, now we're going to make it about BU. Let's talk about Lane Hudson.
I just made a comment. That's a factual comment. Was he at the camp? Was he at the camp?
No.
Was Lane Hudson at the camp? Did they add him to the roster?
I have to be done with the show. I have to be done with the show today. Can we move on, please?
Give us Bet365 and let's get off the fucking show, because you just want to crawl out of the argument because you're in a corner, as you always are.
I think I won. Everyone has voted on my side. What's the poll at?
as if you think that I care what anybody else
62 to
thinks.
38. You think I'm crawling out of a hole right now? I'm winning 60.
Yeah, I
You're
do.
trying to
I think that you're
bury
talking
yourself
about
deeper.
politics and family, and you're doing what you normally do. It's all about the vibes, Johnny. It's all
right, you know
about the
what?
vibe.
Text Chris Kelleher and tell him that you think Spencer Knight should go to Milan. Let's see what he says.
Well, I would never text a general manager of a team and tell
'Cause
them
you're
this
scared.
is what I think you should do.
Because you're scared.
No,
Because you know
because
you're
I
wrong.
respect the position this much. If he asks me my opinion, I'd be happy to give it to him, but I'm not going to send my opinion to a hockey executive that's picking the Olympic team. That would be
because you know you're wrong.
That would be obnoxious.
Okay. All right. Let's get into I don't even remember where our bet is. Let's get into our Bet 365 bet of the night. Honestly, guys, 0-3 this week. We jinxed how good it's been. Obviously I was starting to gloat a little bit that I was hot, but whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet 365. Download the app and get in on the game. Remember, you must be 19 or older. I believe the Toronto Maple Leafs last 10 games have all gone over. Tonight they host the Los Angeles Kings. The Leafs have lost 3 straight games. They've allowed 5 goals against in 3 straight games, and Stolarz is out. I don't know if Vic, has there been an update on Stolarz and Matthews on their status? I'm not sure if I've heard anything on what their status is because they both were hurt the other night. But the Kings have won 3 out of 4. The over-under is 6 right now, and we're going to take the over 6 for this game, and I believe it's at -110. So hopefully we can end the week on a good note. Also, Gavin McCarthy of Boston University and Larry Keenan of UMass were both named to the U.S. College Selects team at the Spangler Cup. Very pumped for those two. Some more Hockey East blood being represented in that tournament. I've got to watch a lot of Larry Keenan over the past year, and I'll be watching him a lot this weekend. I'm doing UMass versus Boston College and a home and home tomorrow night and Saturday. Colby, I don't know if you want to speak on behalf of Gavin McCarthy, but that's like our last little note, I think, before we end the show this week.
2 more players will be announced at 11. 2 more players will be announced at 12. And then the final player for the roster for the Spangler Cup will be announced at 1 o'clock. So keep an eye on some of the different people like Mike McMahon or some of the other college hockey reporters. I'm sure Butchie will have it. I'm sure they'll be tweeting about it. But good for Gavin McKenna. Good for Larry Keenan. North Dakota will have a player announced later. Augustana will have a player announced later. Holy Cross will have a player announced later. Colorado College will have a player announced later. So some love for some schools that probably don't get talked about all that much. And that'll be a great experience for those guys. Johnny, great shows this week. Great job having Jimmy Dowd on. Great job having a pair of balls today. It's not normal for me to see you have a pair of balls. So congratulations on that. You stood your ground in an argument today, which you don't often do. So I am proud of you for that. Even though you were wrong, I'm still proud of you. You let me know what happens when you start telling GMs what to do with their teams. I'll send you Chris Jury's number. You can.
I would never do that either, but
I'll send you Chris Jury's cell phone if you want to text him. I'd be happy to share. Yeah. I'll be happy to share that with you. Love you guys in the chat. You guys were great. We love when everybody starts taking sides on these arguments. I think this is the best part of our show is getting our chat going against each other and against us in particularly. It'll be a long weekend. No show for us until Monday, as we never do Fridays and until the playoffs. Make sure you check out Johnny, Arthur Staple, and Rupper's new podcast, Tri-State Hockey. DFL at noon today, the sheet at 1 today. Make sure you like this episode. Make sure you comment on the stream. I went through all the comments yesterday. I responded to all of them. I went through them. I even told one person basically to go fuck themselves on that, who was trying to chirp me. So I didn't
see that from yesterday. I gotta go look.
All my accomplishments in the game of hockey, which I have readily at my fingertips. So come at me. Be ready for me to come right back at you. And again, we love you guys all, and we will see you all Monday morning. Have a good long weekend.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Morning Cup of Hockey here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, we've got more great hockey content every day. You can catch DFO live at noon and stick around for the sheet with Jeff Marek at 1 p.m. right here on Daily Faceoff. Until then, keep your coffee hot